Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome to Show Me the Meaning, Wisecracks Movie Podcast.
Show me the... What? What? Oh no! Ah! Doink, doink, doink. That was the lamp.
Did you lose your soul?
Luxo showed up.
Anyway, that's how we're starting today. Show me the meaning! What's going on, everybody? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everybody. What's up? I'm Austin Hayden Smith, and I'm joined by the Show Me the Meaning crew. We have Ryan back with us.
Sup, film fans?
And we have Raymond here with us.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
And this week we're going to be talking about the, could we say it's like a home run of a film? Whenever it's like a film that's really well received and it's getting all the praise and all the love, it's a home run of a film, right? I mean, I guess
you mean critically and whatnot? Okay, yeah, sure. It is pretty perceived as a home run. Yeah.
A home run of a film, as most of Pixar's films are. It is Soul, the film that just came out recently, directed by Pete Docter, who also did Monsters, Inc. He did Up and Inside Out. And it stars Jamie Foxx, Tina Fey, Graham Norton, Felicia Rashad, Daveed Diggs, Angela Bassett, etc., etc., etc. Questlove makes an appearance in there. And that's right. So we're going to talk about this film today, but before we get into the recap, before we get into the juicy goodness of it, what we're first going to do is go around and get first impressions. I imagine each of us have probably only seen the film once, but you may have seen it twice. You didn't say the magic word. All right, okay, well, since Ryan has apparently maybe seen it more than once, we'll start with Raymond so that we can keep all the gemstones of like a double critique for afterwards. So Raymond, what were your first impressions on watching Soul?
Sure, I thought it was really good. I think this is in top tier Pixar. I thought it was really interesting. And I think it stands in pretty sharp contrast to their other film from last year, Onward, which was a decent movie. It has its charms, but it felt a little bit more like a DreamWorks picture or even lesser Pixar. And I think it was nice to have this sort of 1-2 punch where you can get a movie like this right after that one and say, oh yeah, they definitely still got it. I think the Dream Factory is up and running over there at Pixar still. And I just wanted to shout out, Pete Docter did get directing credit on this, but there's a co-director as well and a co-writer named Kemp Powers, so I just wanted to shout him out as well at the beginning of the show.
Nice.
Awesome. All right, Ryan, what about you, since you seem to have maybe seen it twice?
Well, that's a little, not really. I basically, through no fault of the film, I fell asleep twice before I actually watched the whole thing. I basically, I started it way too late. I was lying down, felt good, and then I made it pretty much the same part at both times. It was great. I'm not as probably high as both of you. I think I would say it's at the top of mid-tier Pixar. It's not in the cream of the crop. I don't put it there. And like even Inside Out, which I think this is the quote-unquote spiritual successor to
Kinda
or
similar,
sequel.
Yeah.
I think Inside Out is to me affected me more. Although this film definitely spoke to me specifically. Like there was a lot of stuff I totally related to in this movie. I mean, this movie's great. I don't mean to shit on it at all. It's awesome.
Right.
But yeah, and especially as me, I'm doing creative stuff and I am one of those people that would be on the boat there in the Lost Souls world. Like I'm just obsessed with what I'm doing. I would argue whether that's a bad or good thing. I think you can kind of it's a lot about balance and time and existential stuff. And definitely my first impression as when I first watched it, I was like, wow, this is so heavy and deep for a kids movie, and it's awesome. I love that. There needs to be more of that in kids media. And this is probably one of the best examples. It is crazy. There's no way I would have understood this movie when I was 5. I'm just gonna say that.
Right.
I would have been like, "Ooh, that character is funny," huh? But like, I definitely wouldn't have really got it. But that's one of the beauties of Pixar, is that you can watch it as an adult and really get something out of it too.
Before moving on, Ryan, I was curious. You say this is kind of knocking on the door of Pixar's top tier. What do you think is the best of the best for them? What's your favorite?
To me, it's Toy Story. It's The Incredibles. It's I put Inside Out up there. I put Up there for me personally, and
Yes.
then I know Wally's waffling on the edge of top and stuff. I know it's beautiful. It's just I don't. It doesn't have the rewatchability for me. Same with Finding Nemo. I don't really love as much, and that's another P Doctor. I love P Doctor. I think that's P Doctor. Anyway, that's my cream of the crop.
What about
For
you,
all the
Raymond,
Toy
before-
Stories, I put in the cream of
Yeah.
the crop. to
Oh,
be
my
honest,
favorite
too.
of them?
All four.
My gut says Incredibles. I haven't given it too much thought, but I really, really love The Incredibles. That first one. And even the second one's quite good, but I think that first one is a hell of a great time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I fully agree with Ryan. I think this is a
Okay,
good movie.
cool.
I think it's a really good movie. I think in the landscape of movies, this is more movie. If we had more movies like this, especially movies that were the 4-quadrant kind of films that can appeal to everybody, then that would be a wonderful, wonderful world. If we have more films like this, I guess if you think about it in the
Agreed.
oeuvre of Pixar, yeah, I don't think it's one of their best. I think there were some pacing issues that I had problems with. I didn't love the whole Terry side character and that whole thing. I kind of felt that dragged a little bit. It kind of felt like there was a little bit too much of a disconnect between that.
Yeah, that's a
story
character that definitely feels more for the kids.
Yeah, and so for me, it kind of slowed the pacing down of the film. I loved all of the stuff on Earth. I didn't love all of the stuff in The Great Beyond and The Great Before. Some of it was good. Some of it just felt a little bit kind of out of balance for me. So for me, I would say it's, like, again, knocking at the top tier of Pixar. And I actually agree. It's Incredibles. It's Up. It's Inside Out. I do think WALL-E for me is in the top tier. And then, of course,
I
Toy
missed
Story.
one. I'm paying attention to the chat here, and I totally forgot Coco, dude. I honestly think Coco
Coco's
might be
great.
my number one. Like I not a crier. I totally sobbed my eyes out during it. Like I was thinking about personal stuff. A friend of mine that also died and stuff. So I'm like, dude, this movie is so amazing, and I'm just getting touched. I'm getting touched just thinking about it. Anyway, Coco's the best. Sorry, I forgot it.
Yeah, no. So I kind of agree with you, Ryan. But here's the thing: is I don't want to sound not so enthusiastic because again, we need more of this type of quality of film and storytelling, especially for young people. The message I think is actually extremely powerful and extremely potent. There's a lot of beauty in it, and so I think the more of these types of stories we have, then the better. And that is not in any way, I don't in any way want to sound like I'm like being negative about this film. It's just that I think
Could
I
have been
went
better.
in,
We can all, we can say that. But yes, it's
Exactly.
But
amazing.
it is so great to see folks making big, heady, conceptual movies for young people.
Yes.
Yeah, and I would say cinematically too, pretty great, and had some cool ideas going. And then the ending, dude, you got to end your movie with a bang. This movie ended with a bang, and I appreciate that. It left you, you leave the theater feeling good. That's the point of entertainment, I think.
Yes. Okay. So now I think that gives us a
on.
lot of stuff to stew on for the next couple minutes here while we go through the recap. So let me just jump into that for people who are not familiar or people who just need a quick little refresher. This is going to be a little bit of a flyby of a recap, even though now that I'm looking at how long it is, it's not as flyby as I would have thought. But there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of details, a lot of different characters and things that I'm going to kind of skip over. But anyway, here we go. Joe Gardner is a middle school music teacher in New York City who longs for a career in jazz. His mother fears for his financial security, so when Joe gets a job as a full-time music teacher, she is elated, while Joe is unsure because this means that he won't have the time to pursue his true passion as a musician. Joe's former student invites him one day to audition for jazz legend Dorothea Williams. He nails the audition, gets the gig as her pianist. However, as he's going to prepare for the show, which is a few hours later that night, he falls into a manhole and finds himself on a conveyor belt heading to the, quote, great beyond. Not ready to die, Joe runs backwards up the conveyor belt to try to get back to life, and he finds himself slipping through some sort of membrane wall into this barrier, and he ends up in the Great Before, which is a place where unborn souls are being prepared for their initial journey to Earth. There, he ends up getting given a job as a mentor for the problem child soul, number 22, who's gone through many mentors before, all of whom have been unable to prepare number 22 for the journey to Earth. Joe sees this as an opportunity to get him back to Earth, so he agrees to help out. The issue has always been that 22 needs to find their spark, so their badge can be completed and then can be born on Earth. But Joe also struggles to find 22's spark. The two eventually go to a place called the Zone, and they get help from Moonwind, who was one of my favorite characters in this entire thing. And the two make their way to Earth. He's great. However, Joe's soul winds up in the cat when they do get back to Earth, and 22's goes into Joe's body. So Joe then has to help 22 navigate the human body for the first time, while also trying to figure out how to get their souls back into their proper places, all before the concert that is rapidly approaching. While in Joe's body, 22 begins to experience the little things of human life. Eating pizza, the smell of wind, watching kids play, having a deep and personal conversation with the local barber, etc., 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 and starts to have a real change of heart about the goodness of being embodied and being a human on Earth. However, both Joe and 22 end up getting caught by Terry, who's the accountant from the Great Beyond, and the two of them get dragged back into the Great Before/Beyond. 22 gets into a fight with Joe, and 22 disappears into the Zone and becomes a lost soul. And Joe learns that the spark just means that a soul is ready to live, not that it has to find some single purpose in life. Joe then heads back to Earth and has a successful performance with Dorothea Williams, but he doesn't feel as fulfilled as he expected. And so back in his apartment, he sits down at his piano and he gets into the flow state, and he zones out and gets transported back to the Zone where his soul is elevated so that he can track down 22. He finally reaches 22 and convinces them that they are ready to live. 22 finally enters Earth with Joe alongside them. However, Joe has had to accept that 22 getting to Earth means that he will have to go to the Great Beyond and give up his life. But of course, he's rewarded for this selflessness, and he's given another chance to live life on Earth, which he does, now ready to live and appreciate every moment of life. That is the basic synopsis. So, we'll get into that in just one second, but I do have to give a quick shout out to our sponsor for this week's episode, Skillshare. Look, no matter what 2021 is bringing you, one thing you can do is you can spend it creating something meaningful with Skillshare's online classes, because really time is what we make of it. Now, Skillshare is an online learning community that offers membership with meaning. With so much to explore, real projects to create, and the support of fellow creatives, Skillshare empowers you to accomplish real growth. So some new classes that they're super excited to share are their DIY product photography. They have one that can help you bring plants into your home to uplift your spirit and your creative spaces. They have one called Creativity Unleashed and one called iPhone Photography. If you are like me and you just cannot figure out how in the hell people make great iPhone pictures and photos for their Insta and stuff like that, you got to take this course. I just absolutely suck at it, so I need all of these types of trainings that I can get. So this is also one of those things you can just rewatch and rewatch and rewatch, and hopefully it'll sink into your brain, because that's what I'm hoping it does to me, because for some reason I just do not get photography. So I need these types of instruction. So bring color and beauty and fun to your year by exploring your creativity at Skillshare.com/SMTM. That's for show me the meaning, right? SMTM. So it's Skillshare.com/SMTM, and you'll get a free trial of premium membership at Skillshare.com/SMTM, or you can click the link in the show notes. Now, let's jump back into Soul. So did anything that we talked about before the recap make you want to dive into something any further? Or did anything when I was giving the recap trigger anything for you? Does anyone have anything right now? The floor is open.
I will give you the floor, Raymond.
Okay. Well, I will return the floor to Austin.
Okay, Austin. The floor is back to you.
Oh, wonderful. I mean, I love having the floor. You know me. If there's silence, I
love having you the floor and me reacting to you being on the floor.
Okay. First thing, let's just talk about some bullet point things that are really cool, and this might trigger some conversation. One, really cool to see a Pixar film that is a film led by people of color that is about Black improvisational music. I thought that was really freaking cool. Well, so here's the interesting thing. There's a universal message, right, about soul and purpose and finding your meaning and falling in love with life. And then there's another thing that I think essentially makes this a Black film. And what I mean by that is that this film celebrates something that is essentially a gift and creation of the Black American community in the form of jazz music that has shaped American society and shaped American culture in a very profound way. So all of the stuff that is universal, it starts from that particular standpoint. So finding your soul and being in the flow state and having soul, that is a universal thing. But there's also something really wonderful to celebrate about how influential jazz music. And I love how the father even at one point says, no, it's Black improvisational music. So I think there's an intentional sense in which they're trying to say, no, there's also something really important to understand about this creative contribution to actually constructing the edifice of American art that is due particularly to a particular view of being human, and that human is something that derives from the Black experience. And I think so it's universal, but it's also essentially particular at the same time.
Yeah, very specific. And that was why I wanted to make a point of calling out Kemp Powers at the beginning of the show as the co-writer and co-director of the film, that he is a Black American man, and by all accounts, according to Pete Docter, Dana Murray, I read a handful of interviews with them, and they said that he was really the key to this whole thing and bringing all these concepts together. That before he was involved, the character of Joe, Pete Docter was playing with ideas of him being an animator or an actor, and they really didn't know what the way into this world was. And I mean, for lack of a better term, they hadn't really found Joe's spark as a creative team. And then when Kemp got involved, when Kemp Powers got involved, they said it unlocked everything through that specific lens, that he made it about this specific place, about living in Manhattan, about his life there, and about a medical scare that he had in his life. And we actually had someone in the chat who said that they worked on some of the background art for this film at the Alpha and Omega. We'd love to hear from you. Send in a voicemail or an email to Wisecrack and let us know, because I listened to an interview with Kemp Powers, and he talked about the specificity of the background work on this and how it was really important for them to show a really diverse New York, and how much effort went into that background work. And I do think it's important to point that out, that Pete Docter, by his own admission, was kind of lost at sea on this one until Kemp Powers came in and made it specifically about the Black experience, but in a way that was still universal for folks.
Yeah, exactly. That's Both of you said it way more poetically than I could have.
Well, and then here's the thing, right? Like, when we think of soul music, what do we think of? We think of James Brown, right? We think of when we think of
Aretha
jazz
Franklin.
music, what do we think? Aretha Franklin. We think of jazz music. We think of like
Miles Davis,
Miles Davis, Billie Holiday. You know, we think of like going into a smoky fucking jazz room that's got like reds, and then up on stage there's people like tickling the ivory and playing the horns. And I grew up. My family are all from New Orleans, so I grew up listening to Louis Armstrong, New Orleans jazz. Like, that's what my family played on Saturday mornings when my mom was tending the garden, right? So for me, I have a very sort of particular attachment to jazz music. That I think this film does a really wonderful service to. And in a way, I kind of felt that there was like a sort of, I had like a spiritual connection, or maybe not a spiritual connection because that makes it sound too like transcendent, but a sort of like brotherly, sisterly connection to Whiplash, right? You've got Whiplash. Yeah, so there was the bit, for some reason, I was thinking about like Whiplash as being about, Damien Chazelle, like, didn't he actually go to music school? And that was a very autobiographical film. And this film also had that type of personal touch to it, except from a different side. You know, it wasn't about like this one particular person having a horrible teacher. This was kind of the opposite. This was like purely it starts from the point of love rather than the point of pain and work. Even though there's disappointment in there, it kind of starts from a different angle. But for some reason, I felt like they were really, like, I was thinking about Whiplash while I was watching this, which was kind of an interesting juxtaposition.
Sure. But that's one of the things I really love about this script, is that he's not, I mean, he is very dogged in his pursuit of his creative dream, but he's also a great teacher. You know, I think that a lesser creative team might have made him a total burnout, and he would be disconnected from all the kids, and he wouldn't have that spark when he's in the classroom. But you do see him not go all the way into the flow when he's in his classroom, but you get glimpses of that, you know. And I think that's a really lovely aspect of that, to the film, is this notion that he wasn't born, like they say in the movie, your spark is not your purpose. He wasn't born for this one purpose to play music professionally, but he has all manner of purpose that he's not even aware of until later in the film, that he gets to touch these young people's lives every single day and make a difference for each and every one of them.
I love
and
jazz
I think
music.
that's really neat. sorry for the dead hair there.
The improv is a cool part too, because you can, they got Tina Fey, who's a goddess of improv, right? So and
yeah, she's really fun.
I think she said that they did some improv in the movie, so I thought that was kind of a cool touch to have kind of a more improvisational animated film, which is kind of hard to do and to plan out in a movie about improv based music, which is that's also, I think, the key to a lot of the film is just, anyone can just learn the same 3 chords like me and play a song for 3 minutes, but that dude's feeling it. He's in the zone. It's improv based. You're feeling it as it's going. It's like the only kind of music that's really like that besides Fish or Grateful Dead.
The jam band vibe.
Yeah. I think that's cool to base the movie around. Say what?
They jazzing. They use that word in there. Like number 22 kept saying jazzing, and Joe's like, no, that's not a word, but that's right. I love that word, and I'm going to start using that in. I
thought it came from the stuff in the cigarettes, jazz cigarettes, and then they named the music after the.
Oh sure.
No. Yeah. but
we know
what's great about
it
is. Yeah, but I love that idea of jazzing as being a sort of term to describe how you can be in the flow. And so my favorite film director from a methodological perspective is John Cassavetes. Cassavetes famously describes his approach as being a jazz-like approach, and he refers to it as composition in the moment. And he would do this where he would film films and he would let things kind of just happen. And you kind of create constructive coverage rather than just the simple like wide, medium, close. It's kind of building from the ground up more organically. Yeah. And it makes it more difficult because it's difficult to create consistency then with different angles if you're going to do shot reverse type of stuff. But the thing that's wonderful is it can be a little bit more true to life because life is composition in the moment. And so if you can learn how to quote jazz through life, then what you're basically learning is kind of tapping into the flow states or the zones, which is something that all the kind of like new age gurus are talking about nowadays. But there's something really powerful about this that has existed for thousands of years. And that's about kind of tapping into that flow, tapping into harmony, right? These are all different terms, finding different harmonies based off of the melody within the backbone of the structure and then being able to create without it. So it's great that the film also does that while also teaching us about the beauty of doing that,
And can I get a little meta, man? Since Jared's not here, I got to do it. If with you're improvising within, like you said, the structure of a song, which is kind of what they're saying about life. You got to have a little structure, but you can improvise throughout it. And it's kind of like life's just one long song, man. Wow, Pixar Soul just taught me something. You showed me the movie tonight, Austin.
There's a great quote from a sort of meditation coach that I've listened to, and he says, "Sound stretched is music. Movement stretched is dance. Mind stretched is meditation. Life stretched is celebration." And I think there's something wonderful in that. Like sound stretched is music. And that sort of, it's the stretching that I think is something, that's what jazzing is, And I think there's something
between the notes, man.
Yeah. And there's definitely something pervasive about that art form with regards to this film. It does feel, while it is obviously pretty cleanly structured, it does feel improvisatory. Like I never saw that moment coming when he falls into the cat. It's just one of those things that, and I think to their credit,
that was planned, but
sure. But what I mean is just the way that it seems like the creative team was willing to follow some strange impulses or things, or plot developments that might seem like, oh, is that a little too kiddie? Is that But letting it go to weird places like that, or the plane where the ship is going across and they're running into all the lost souls. There are such weird ideas, and I think that there are a lot of creatives who may have sort of turned off those influences and would have tried to steer the ship, so to speak, away from those weirder, more cartoonish aspects of this. And I don't know. I think it's great the way that this is, I would say, simultaneously like Pixar's most grounded film, and then in some ways their most out
most
there
aspirational.
As well. Yeah, absolutely. It's really, really cool to see how those worlds interplay.
Yeah, I had a lot of people message me on Insta and Twitter, and so shouts to you all for tuning my attention to this. I mean, it's a thick theme, but I think people really latched onto this. But the idea of meaning, purpose, finding your journey in life, being committed, being authentic, and affirming things in life, right? Like the moment when 22 switches from their sort of skepticism and distaste about Earth to actually appreciating it is a very simple, and I felt it had very sort of like Wings of Desire type of vibes to it. I immediately thought like, oh shit, this is the angel who has had a cup of coffee and is like, that's it, and then falls in love with a woman, is like, fuck it, I'm giving up being an angel so that I can be here on Earth, you know? Like that's to me, which is also, they made the remake of it, City of Angels, which if you saw that, the Nick Cage and Meg Ryan film. But yeah, Wings of Desire, one of my favorite movies of all time. But there was something so beautiful about that, about the taste of pizza, and it's true. You have
Sure.
the pizza is great, or a leaf that falls from a tree. There's this amazing quote from Brothers Karamazov where one of the brothers is kind of, he's an atheist, and then the other one is like, okay, well, if you're an atheist, what's what grounds you in life? What's the purpose? And he says it's the sticky leaves that you crunch under your feet. You know, and I always just get this picture of you walking. It's those little things, you know. It's not about having to have your singular purpose. I'm going to be a millionaire entrepreneur. I'm going to have 1 billion followers. I'm going to be a famous artist, actor, poet, musician, writer. I'm going to have the house and the car and the wife. It's not necessarily about that. It's, holy shit, man, like how many connections did I make with the local barber and just have that moment of truth and honesty and beauty with them. I had a ride with an Uber driver the other day who was like basically crying to me because of his divorce and his kids got taken away from him and now he misses them. Oh, wow. And it's like, that's the real shit, man. And we need human connection. And this, to me, this film was so grounded because it was all about just connecting with the material things of life.
Well,
and also, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that's one of the things that Kemp Powers also highlighted in a handful of interviews. I think he said, this isn't verbatim, but he said something to the effect of, when you're at the end of the road on your deathbed, you're not going to think about who I met at an awards party. You're going to think about those really quiet moments that give life meaning.
Totally, and also I like that that's so nonchalantly in a kid's movie. He falls down the manhole, boom, he's dead, and it's like, like, you know, there's this movie. A big part of the message is you are going to die one day, child.
Yeah,
and you better enjoy every,
and I love how it's
sand at the beach,
how it's illustrated
the
that
playground, and it's just in cartoon faces. So you're like, oh, okay, you know,
And
like,
I love how it's illustrated that he literally
movie.
like drops out of life. He falls from, you know, through the manhole, and then it's just the soul manifestation of him that sort of falls into the frame. It's
enjoy
just like
your life.
Yeah.
You never know when you will die, and enjoy your popcorn here at the cinema. Thank you for coming to a Pixar film.
There's this really wild thing that happened in Kemp Powers' life that, and I don't want to get too dark, but when he was a teenager, he accidentally murdered one of his best friends.
Oh my God.
He was playing with his mom's gun, and it went off in his hand, and he killed his best friend. And his parents, his best friend's parents, didn't press charges, and they were like, we don't want your life to be ruined just because his life was taken. You know, we just... Fuck. And he took this, like, if you read his memoir, he took this as like a mandate to go forward and have this obligation in life to almost live for the both of them, and he wanted to be as great and significant as possible. And then he had this insane, like, anxiety attack where he passed out on a subway train, and he woke up and was like, I can't live like this. I can't live with this pressure and anxiety, and my friend would not want me to live like this, and I can never forgive myself for what I did, but going forward I have to recognize that, like, I can't just pursue this vague notion of greatness or significance. I have to really like live for the moment and just try and do what makes me happy and try to add something to other folks' lives while I'm here. And that's when he decided, like, I'm going to stop working as a journalist and start moving more towards a creative path. And I think that is like the story of this movie. I mean, it's this guy who, in some ways, he similarly got a second chance at life early on, because they could have thrown the book at him after what happened as a teenager, but his friend's parents were so gracious, and he credits that as like a miracle in his life, that he had this extra chance to go forward and really figure out what this whole thing was about.
And I think it's really important that what this film does too is it doesn't take a dualist side. It has to present that there's the world of the soul and there's the world of the body. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't say when you're in the flow state or you're in the zone, that's the only point of truth. And neither does it leave you with, well, only eating pizza and only seeing children. No, it's that actually they need each other. And it's because Joe is able to tap into and find his soul again, then he's able to come back into his life and be like, oh snap, okay, now I can actually ground myself, right? So it's like those things need each other, and then it's about jazzing through life, which I think we could say is finding the soul in the daily mundane activities that appear to be soulless. And that's really cool.
Finding art and inspiration in the mundane and in the everyday, and that is, I mean, when they're sitting down and that little helicopter leaf starts falling, and just how beautifully it's animated, and the way that it's like, of course, this is a controlled environment, so they could make every shot at magic hour, but it's one of those things where when you're swept up in the moment, you're thinking to yourself, like, man, this is just, I can't believe, what a miracle shot. I can't believe they pulled this off. But you get swept up in it. You go, yeah, you know what? And of course, like, they couldn't have known that this was going to come out in the midst of a pandemic where everyone was stuck inside, but I think it is a testament to the beauty of the little things in life, and I think now more than ever we need the kind of movies that reassert that sort of beauty.
Yeah, Ryan, you strike me as somebody who does this quite well. I mean, we've known each other for a few years, but really only through the digital medium, and we got to see each other in person one time. But I feel like this is something I could totally see that you watching this film, you'd be like, that's right. You talked about it at the beginning, but you do seem like somebody who really does try to enjoy those little things, like even just like watching your videos and stuff like that. Like I watched the one the other day where you're at the crossroads with like where Robert Johnson sold his soul to the devil, right?
Then you ordered the McChicken or whatever it was. Can you believe that this happened? Anyway, I'll have number 3.
Sir, this is a Church's.
Yeah. So do you think that like thematically that there is something kind of just really important about what this film was expressing about finding the joy in those little things, and like why? Like what does that mean?
I am just always, yes, the answer is yes to your question, but and yes, in terms of how it relates to my life, I definitely am a YOLO person where it's like, and I take that. And I don't just say that because it's on T-shirts. It's like I take that seriously. It's like I never got. It seems like it's part of life in humans to just become jaded, right? Where you're like, all right, get into the routine, and there's just something kind of beautiful about getting into a routine and knowing what you're going to do every day and stuff. But also, like I definitely was one of those kids where the second I found out about death, I was like, what? It's over then. I don't know when. You never know what's going to happen. And then I actually have a story. I didn't have anything that like happened to the director, but I actually did. I had the inverse of that. I didn't shoot my best friend, but I was at my grandma's funeral when I was like literally 11 or 12, and it was at the reception at my cousin's house. And I went down, and we were going to play on the pool table, and there was a rifle there. and I literally like picked it up, and all my cousins were there, and I shot it like thinking like, oh, they're not gonna leave a real, you know, an unloaded rifle, and just boom, everyone hits the deck, it blows a hole in the wall. But I like absolutely thought about that forever after, till this day, until you, especially it resonated with the thing. Like I could have fucking killed my, you know, my fucking cousins. So it's like. No, and I did it, and I got like lucky. It was like, you know, heads or tails, you know, like I was pointing in their direction. So it's kind of like, I'm an idiot also. I'll just throw that out there, like, especially when I was 11. I don't do that now. I don't, you know, whatever. But it's like, dude, like, you never know. I could have killed my cousin. You never know when you're going to die. At my grandma's funeral. But then, you know, so yeah, anything can happen, you know, you're going on down the road, whatever. I don't have to repeat myself, but yeah, I find that people get jaded way too quickly in life, where it's just kind of like, all right, I'm part of, you know, you either have goals you're not hitting and you're just thinking about tomorrow, but it's just kind of like, dude, no, this is all you got and you better fucking enjoy it. Anyway.
Well, it's also that tough thing. And sorry.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead, Raymond.
No, I was going to say just one of the other, I think, masterstrokes of this film is that it gives him the opportunity to live his dream and realize that he still finds himself wanting. And I think that so many movies, I mean, maybe 90% of movies treat the realization or the fulfillment of a goal as the ends that justify all means and the thing that brings total spiritual fulfillment and emotional fulfillment, and you cut to credits and you leave the theater happy, like you said, Ryan. But I think there is something really, really smart about how he gets the opportunity to live this dream, and he walks out of the building on cloud nine, and he turns to Dorothea and he says, okay, so what's next? And he thinks she's going to say, like, we go on this crazy tour and we're going to record albums and you're going to win Grammys. And she goes, we'll be back here tomorrow night at like 7:30. And he's like,
right. Yeah, another day.
Okay. So my dream is becoming a rhythm. It's becoming my new normal. It's becoming the mundane. And even if you are fortunate enough and privileged enough, I mean, like, I can only speak for myself, but I'd say all three of us feel pretty privileged to be able to talk about movies and, you know, do that as a job. Like, it's still, you still have to find the things that excite and invigorate you within that new framework, because any rhythm is going to become, or can become, monotonous, or like you said, the status quo. It can kind of just start pulling you down, or make you jaded or cynical.
Spice it up and stop and smell the roses and enjoy the little things. All those cliches combined.
That's what this is all about.
Yes.
Yeah, it is really lovely, because I feel like it provides a nice contrast to so much of like insta inspiration and stuff like that these days. Right? With like instant inspiration, it's all about, what do you really want? Like, find a life coach or find someone who can teach you how to visualize, and you can find what you really, really want. And this film is like, okay, cool. So you'll get what you really want. So tell me what you want, what you really, really want. You wanna really, really, really want to zig a zig ah, right?
Do you want to be my lover, Austin?
I would say just as profound a work of art as Pixar's Soul.
And so, but what it really is like, okay, if you focus too much on those narrow things, and this really goes to the heart of a lot of research and psychoanalysis and anthropology and stuff like that, well, maybe when you get that thing, you'll actually realize that you don't want it. And you hear this all the time. Like you just said, was it Kemp that said that like, you know, when you're on your deathbed, you're not going to be like, oh man, it was great, all those celebrity parties that I had and stuff like that, sure. Right? You're not going to be like, man, I love my brand new shiny refrigerator that had the filtered water system and I could put like 20 like cartons of ice cream in the freezer. Like, no, you're gonna be like, man, remember the time that me and my friends, me and my family were sitting on the back porch smoking cigarettes, just talking, or drinking a glass of wine and just talking. Or remember that the shooting stars that we saw in the sky that one night when we were on the beach and it came out of nowhere, or that weird thunderstorm that hit you when you were on the hike and you weren't expecting it, and all of a sudden you just let go and you were just screaming in the rain because it was amazing. Like, those are the things that matter. And so really, like, how can you attune yourself? How can you live a life, a rich, fulfilled life that isn't not motivated? Joe doesn't not become a musician at the end. He's still going to be a musician. He's just also going to recognize that, guess what? I can still find my spark as a teacher. I can still find my spark talking with the barber in the barber chair. I can still find that spark having a piece of pizza and going to see a shitty B movie at the like movie theater around the like whatever. It's those things that can become mundane, that there's soul in those things.
And the barber has a similar experience where he talks about how he had aspired to be what was his ambition?
A vet.
Oh yeah, he said that he wanted to be a veterinarian and that he started cutting hair as a job, and he was like, turns out I'm great at it. I love it. I get to talk to people every day. And it's, you know, it's cool. The movie is replete with those signposts about like this, I guess to put a tidy bow on it, you could say that, of course, life is what happens while you're making plans, the old adage. But this, Austin...
All the cliches are coming out today.
Yeah, right. But what you were hitting on there, I think, is a much more salient truism, that there is a really beautiful emotional diversity in it really, really specific stuff that they that they explore in this film.
Real quick, let me ask you this. We're all artists here to some degree or another.
Yeah, we're
right?
all artists, sure.
Right? So what do you think about this struggle between career and stability, right? This is the mom, you know? The mom is like her husband was a musician, and she saw that, yeah, he had success, but it was not easy, and she doesn't want that for her son. She's like, she wants security and simplicity and ease for her son. So this struggle that you have between career and stability versus following your passion, right? Like, what do we think about that? Is there such a dichotomy? Like, what does this film maybe teach us about that?
Well, I have a lot of thoughts on that, actually. I think that another reason I'm grateful every day is because it's like, dude, not only were you born, but you're born now. Like, we're literally leisure time and being able to go, oh, what's my passion? I want to spend, you know, my 20s, you know, if you're like, you know, not everyone can do that, obviously, but like a lot of people do compared to 1,000 years ago, you know, or 100, 200 years ago or whatever. That's all I'm saying. And the fact that this is like a relatively recent phenomenon in terms of like the whole idea of, oh, I'm going to have a career that makes my money for my family, puts food on the table, and also I love it and it's the thing I'm so passionate about. Like, that's such a small amount of people that did it in history, and then also even now, people, you know, they're trying to do that. Like, that's supposed to be the end-all be-all dream. And I do think that that you got to be a realist about it, like anything else. It's like you got to know what the routine is and learn to love the routine in a way, if you're into these kind of creative things like we all are, and you got to be okay with not making very much, you know, money for a long time, and maybe never making a lot of money, and you got to be fine with that and be aware of that, and also not be fooling yourself and be delusional is kind of what I would tell somebody, you know. And it's not like, and if it doesn't happen in 20 years, it doesn't happen in 20 years, but you're like, hey, I enjoyed the ride. Like, that should be good enough for you, hopefully. You know, that's my, you know, in my opinion. But also, I find nothing wrong with the person, like the guy who's just like, was the lost soul in the movie and then just goes, wait a minute, what am I doing here? You know, I'm here at a desk job. I get routines bad, but it's like in the past, it's like, dude, jobs weren't for fun, man. It was to literally provide for your loved ones, you know, and that's secondary. And obviously, if you can have both, like you can hope, like I'm kind of saying now, you can. It's like, go for it, but don't. I never would suggest that, like, you know, like, people that aren't just doing like fun creative stuff, you know, are wasting their life. I think that they're basically doing what they have to do and then coming home and enjoying the time they have with, you know, and then enjoying the little things, the breeze with their kids and whatever, you know, and that's perfectly valid.
Yeah, and there's something inherent to this this film, and I think the art form of jazz. The jazz music consultant, and I think he composed some of the pieces in this as well, was Jon Batiste. Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross did a great job on the score, but most of their stuff was in the Beyond world. And I think he was talking about how no one, even jazz musicians, don't think of themselves as like, or rather that no one gets into jazz music because they want to get rich and famous. They do it for the love of the game. And I think that sort of informs this film in a major way, that he is, you know, he's not trying to be Lady Gaga. He's not trying to be Prince. That he is someone who, even at the height of his ambitions, or if his wildest dreams were to be achieved, he would still be the kind of musician that typically still has to keep gigging. He's never going to be
Dorothea
a household
Williams.
name. Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
yeah,
Williams.
and that's
Yeah,
most
her
musicians
character.
and most creatives. Period. You know, like
Yeah,
even if
absolutely.
you get a little, like it's very the 1%, the top percent or whatever. Like they get to really just live off of their thing. So you're totally right. It's not really a choice. You don't have to make the choice of do I want to do one or the other. You can totally find room for both, and that's kind of what the movie's saying too. Is there's some balance, time management.
Yeah,
and
so
that's
the last. Okay, I was going to say the last theme real quick, and then we'll jump into the mailbag. Is there is also some interesting stuff here philosophically, right? So this issue about the soul kind of being born through the trauma of childbirth, they say at one point, into the human body. And then this other bit about how Earth is soul crushing. This made me think a lot about some ancient philosophical ideas that come out of Greece with the work of Plato and Socrates, right? Plato actually explicitly talks about that, how childbirth is a traumatic experience. And that's one of the things that we deal with as human beings. And that the whole point of being a philosopher for Plato, at least in some of the dialogues, is that the philosopher is the one who tends most closely towards death, because that's when the soul is released up into the truth of reality, into the world of the forms or the ideas or whatever, right? So there is something also interesting that I saw here as well, and it could be viewed as a dualism, right? That it's, the souls are good and the body is bad. But I don't think that's entirely it. So when they say that Earth is soul-crushing in this film, this is kind of what I was getting at earlier, is I think what they're saying is, listen, unless you attune yourselves to the soul that is within the Earth, that you can tap into, that is there animating all of life all the time, then it can become soul crushing. So there's always that war that you have to battle with against that tendency. But it isn't about escaping the body. It's about finding the soul within the embodied existence that will then give you a complete life, so that when you do go to the great beyond, then you can kind of do the whole, I had a lovely, fulfilling life. So it's kind of just some interesting themes that I thought going on as well that I wanted to just share. So
Sure.
Yeah. And if you guys are philosophy buffs out there and you're listening and you want to expand on this more, send us an email. You can send it to us at movies@wisecrack.co. And then, of course, you can also call us at 1-213-534-8807. We're going to transition into the mailbag now. We're going to talk about some voicemails. Again, you can call us in the future if you want to chat about soul, if you want to talk about anything else from our back catalog, at 1-213-534-8807. Let's go to Emily, who had some thoughts on Wonder Woman 1984.
Hi, this is Emily, and I'm calling about the Wonder Woman 1984 Show Me the Meaning episode. I love the show. Thank you so much, you guys, for your thoughts and whatnot. And I have this idea, and it occurred to me while I was watching the movie for the first time. I watched on Christmas, blah, blah, blah. And I got the impression that it wasn't just the movie taking place in 1984 or even trying to comment on the decade, but it was written and performed as though it were a film from the 80s. I sort of went into it. That occurred to me early on enough, too, that I think it helped me enjoy the movie more. I took it less seriously because I was treating it like, I don't know, you treat some of those over-the-top 1980s action movies. So, running with that idea, if that's what they were trying to do, how well do you think the, crew, etc., achieved that? Can't wait to hear your thoughts. Thanks very much. Bye.
Yeah, this is great. This is kind of touching on, I think, what Raymond said. So I'll turn the mic over to him, and then let's get Ryan's thoughts, because we didn't get to chat with him about Wonder Woman. But Raymond, you talked about how that opening scene in the mall was very much like Superman, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. And so, what do you think about Emily's thoughts? Yeah.
I thought there was a really fun kind of wholesome energy to that first couple of scenes, really. But I think some of the 80s stuff that really brought it home to me, and I had a similar vibe that Emily, or I had a similar thought that Emily did, was just when they have in the middle of their fucking superhero movie, and this is not to, I don't know if it's to the film's credit, but they stop the whole plot so that Chris Pine can have like essentially a shopping montage raiding this other guy's closet. There is a I don't know that I want to make this comparison too strictly, but the Valley Girl "I'll Stop the World" montage where they're going through the San Fernando Valley and you know, it's just like an incredible vibe, just one of the all-time great 80s montages. And I think the movie is trying to do stuff like that at times, because there is this large section of the movie where she and Chris Pine are just exploring Washington, D.C., and I mean, they must have gotten a huge subsidy from the DC Tourism Board for this movie. I think, because, no, I mean, sincerely, I imagine they probably did. That was probably key to shooting it there, because they have, there's shots on the mall, and here's the shots over at the Smithsonian, and then we look how clean our underground trains are, and it was just like, what are we doing here, and why isn't this montage snappier, and where are the 80s tracks? So I do see where you're coming from with that one. I had, like I said, some similar thoughts when I was watching it, but I just think they missed the mark.
Ryan, what do you think, brother?
Man, I didn't see the movie, dude.
Oh, you didn't?
No, I didn't.
Let's delay Tenet so we can do Wonder Woman again next week. So Ryan can watch it.
I'm behind on lots of movies.
Did you like?
I liked Wonder Woman 1. Yeah, sorry to step on you, but yeah. I liked Wonder Woman 1 a lot. I liked the whole fish out of water vibe. I thought it was cool. And fun,
I'd be curious.
They try to do that again with Chris Pine in this one.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe if you get a chance this week to check it out, because I'm sure we'll get some other mailbag stuff in the coming weeks, and maybe we can just kind of revisit it again at some point, because it's kind of interesting, but we think ultimately maybe it kind of fell short in some key ways that kind of derailed.
I've heard a lot of mixed reviews. I've heard people rave, and then I've heard people say, no, not for me, or not good.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Okay.
You could probably watch it on 1.5 speed, like 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Well, that was for like my 12th viewing.
No, I know. 20th. I'm saying I think this one would be fine on your first viewing.
Definitely. Okay. So yes, if you want to call in and leave us a voicemail, please do so at 1-213-534-8807. Now we're going to jump into the email mailbag, and if you want to send us your thoughts via email, you can. movies@wisecrack.co. That is movies@wisecrack.co. So we're going to start with an email from Sunny, who sent us a very long email, but I'm just going to go to the portion where Sunny is talking about Bad Santa. Okay. Sunny writes, "Hello, Show Me the Meaning crew. I'm a big fan of the show and have been listening for about 2 years. I was really excited to see you guys were doing Bad Santa, and I liked the episode. Although I think I enjoy the movie more than you did all. Basically, I think it's just a cultural thing. The movie is about trashy people, and you kind of have to identify with trash or enjoy the trash aesthetic to get the full benefit from it. For me, it was very funny and at the same time very sentimental, and it all worked for me. The fact that the characters, especially the main character, show minimal growth is kind of the point and what makes me like it so much. I wouldn't have wanted more growth because that would have ruined it. These are characters living near the bottom of the barrel, and they don't want to change. They don't want to conform, do better, or be productive in life. I don't think the wooden pickle represents a penis. I think it represents a shit log. They don't want to think about anything other than getting wasted and having sex. It's a very, quote, lizard brain, living in the moment type of thing. So at the end, the fact that the Santa impersonator even thinks about the kid for a second and trying to get him the elephant is pretty sweet. But I like the fact that nobody really changes more than that, because it's like the movie is saying, okay, these people exist and they don't have to change really. We can accept them, we can have them as is, and even they can experience somewhat of a family and some form of care and giving, even if it's minimal." What you guys think?
No, I'm behind on my Show Me the Meaning that I was not a part of. And did you guys shit on Bad Santa, one of the best Christmas movies or just movies period ever?
I don't know that we shat on it, but I was a little. You
said that he said he liked it more than you. You didn't give it a glowing review. That's a 10 out of 10 must see for me.
My review was not glowing.
OMG.
But the floor is yours because it was your choice and you couldn't be there. So
that's true. Right? Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, I picked that one and then I couldn't be there all of a sudden. I suck.
Okay, so why did you choose that one?
I agree with every fucking thing that guy just said. I love movies like that. Like, yes, I wish there was more, and not saying just like transcends your average shitty people just being shitty movie, which I think encompasses a lot of. You could put Judd Apatow's movies in there, but they usually learn something, you know. But like, where it's just kind of like, all right, we're gonna watch. Part of the fun is watching these. I guess, you know, like you said, trashy people. I love Trailer Park Boys and stuff like that. So yeah, I really relate to a filmmaker who is going to just. No one really learns anything except there are moments of life, like Soul. You know, there's like little things like he enjoys, like, oh, kids like elephants. I'm gonna make this kid happy because like he doesn't have to end up like a shithead like me. You know, it's just I like the naturalist part of I like I said, agree with everything he said, and it's fucking hilarious. How can you not laugh in Bad Santa? So you guys explain yourselves now. Let's go. Let's hear it briefly.
I don't even remember what I said. I think that I was like
talked a lot about sandwiches.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't even remember what I said about it. I literally don't. I think I remember I was like, it just wasn't this. It wasn't the Christmas. It wasn't the sentimental Christmas film that I kind of like wanted to vibe out to. I think or
sentimental Christmas film. You don't come to Bad Santa for sentimental Christmas films. You go to
Jimmy all the way for that. In fairness, Austin, it is called Bad Santa.
I know.
Yeah,
I
it's
know.
Bad
but I was
Santa.
I just needed a little love at the end of the year, and I needed some, you know, I was just feeling
I'm sorry that I made you watch Bad Santa when you were looking for love at the end of the year.
It's all good. I'm glad I saw it. I'm glad I watched it, and we, of course, had a great conversation, so, you know, yeah. All right, go ahead and wrap up the show there. Tell us where we can find you on the internet. Ryan, where can people find you?
Man, Ryan Shorts, YouTube and Facebook and all the Instagram and all that shit. I have so many shorts shot and I have not had no time to edit them, so I'm behind. I'm about to have a ton of them come out. So anyway, and one last thing I want to say: go watch Possessor Uncut. That's my movie recommendation for you this week. I love the shit out of it. Make sure you're watching the Uncut. Brandon Cronenberg, David Cronenberg's son, who more than lives up to his name. It's fucking awesome. Go watch.
We've had some requests for Possessor. Maybe we could do that in February.
Did you guys like
Possessor
Antiviral?
I did enjoy Antiviral.
I'm a shitty Cronenberg Psycho fan, and I have not seen it yet. Just like a lot of these other films.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, I am a good Cronenberg Psycho fan, and I did watch it.
Well,
Raymond,
where can people hear you about that?
Where can people talk to you about good Cronenberg films and things like that?
Yeah, we can talk movies over at Twitter. I'm at Crematoria on Letterboxd as well, and I'll throw out a movie recommendation as well while we're at it. Kemp Powers also wrote an adaptation of his stage play called One Night in Miami that's currently streaming on Amazon.
Whoa!
Highly recommend it. If you're a Prime member, check it out. I watched it last night in preparation for this podcast, and it was wonderful. And
I love the whole history of it, but I can't wait to see it.
It's I think a perfect watch for today. Martin Luther King doesn't feature in the film, but it is about Malcolm X, Cassius Clay, Sam Cooke, and Jim Brown, a sort of meeting of the minds at a crucial turning point in the ongoing black struggle for civil rights in America. And I thought it was beautiful. Highly recommended if you've got Amazon Prime. That's One Night in Miami.
Amazing. Cool. You can hit me up on Insta, AUS_HAY, Twitter, Austin_Hayden. I mentioned this last week. I'm just going to mention it again. My play opens in 2 weeks. It's the
bravo.
famous. Thank you. It's the famous American classic by Sam Shepard. He's a Pulitzer-winning playwright. If you're not familiar with him, this play was nominated for a Pulitzer. It's called True West. I star as the older brother Lee. And if you're in Sydney, come check it out. It's playing at Flight Path Theater. The first week of February, so the 2nd through the 7th. If you're not in Sydney, you can access, we're doing a live stream version of it. There's two shows that are going to be live streamed, but if you purchase the ticket for the live stream, you can either watch it when it's being live streamed, or you can just watch it up to a week after the actual thing. And just keep in mind the difference between Sydney and the northern/western hemisphere. We're a day ahead. So the live stream for us is on our Saturday, which is your Friday. So, but yeah, check that out. But again, it doesn't matter because you have access to the archive, and it's only $15 Australian, which is like $12 US, £10 or £9 British. So it's cheap as chips. Support indie theater, support your boy. Plus, it's a fucking punk rock as shit play. One of the best plays that ever been written in America. Yeah. It's fucking amazing. So check it out. We love ya. Ryan, take us out, please.
Goodbye from the great beyond. This has been Show Me the Meaning.